Hey everybody, welcome back to Log Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by Tucker.
Yeah. Eh.
Today, folks, regrettably, we're here to do BLB once more.
Oh God.
And we gotta, well, before we really get into the episode, I think we gotta have a sit down here for a moment.
Okay. All right. An intervention, if you
An
will.
intervention. A couple things to know. First of all, we forgot to solicit some submissions again this week.
Yes.
So that's
I
up
almost
top.
intentionally didn't
Yes.
do that
A mea culpa of
because
sorts.
we have so many games to talk about.
Right.
But we'll see.
But this is almost like it's like a disappointed parents talk to begin the episode here, right?
Sure.
But
Sure.
only you are our children. The members of the BLB community are our children, but we're actually the ones disappointing you here. So it's
Yes.
usually the other way around. It's almost always the other way around.
Great point. Yes. We're
But
disappointed in ourselves, but does it matter?
no, actually, I'm not disappointed in myself.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
they're going to be disappointed in us when we say what is, I think,
Sure.
probably obvious that BLB is not a weekly show anymore.
No, it's not. No.
And I just figured we'd put it out there.
Sure. Okay. To confirm it.
Sure,
Confirm
just to
the
confirm it.
obvious.
Yeah, it's not coming back weekly. Stop fucking asking.
It's like if you
Andrew.
get shot in the foot and you're like, "Hey, I got shot in the foot."
Andrew Orozco of My Star Wars Show fame and Log Banter infamy, you might say.
Yeah.
Always
Very
asking where's BLB. Andrew, it's coming when it's coming, and right now it's coming to you at the moment. But Tucker,
Yep.
I would say like the video, subscribe channel, ring the bell, leave a comment, join the Discord. But everybody
Yep.
watching this show already fucking does all this. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
actually, I'd be interested to go into the YouTube studio on BLB analytics and see what the percentage of, or actually, I'd rather count on one hand how many not subscribed viewers have viewed an episode of
Yeah.
the Backlog Banter official show.
The thing about it, Tucker, is like typically it's a YouTube video. You don't want to fucking chew the fat for this long at the beginning of it, you know. But
Yeah.
this is a conversation for the community. This is not.
That's a great point.
This show doesn't bring it. This is a passion project.
Yeah, absolutely,
It's not,
absolutely.
and we're not even that impassioned about it because that comes like once every fucking month and a half. But the point is, I think we can fucking kick our feet back and just chat a little bit, Tucker.
We
And
should call this the relaxed episode, if you will.
no, Tucker, I pulled up a site that I use religiously,
Yes, of course.
backlogs.com,
Oh, I'll have to check that one out.
and determined that I have 6 games to discuss with you.
I'll allow that. Yeah. I have a very similar amount. I've actually willed myself down to the exact same amount, 6 games, because I've played more than that, but a couple of them are, not really, don't really warrant talking about for too long. A couple of them I haven't finished yet, and I'd rather wait until they're completed by the time we record our next episode, in like 3 months or something like that. I'd probably have beaten them. But you know what? I'm going to start with something that started playing quite a long time ago, actually, which is Banjo-Tooie. I started it on Xbox Game Pass.
Sure.
And I have played about 7 or 8 hours of it.
Yeah.
And I'm a little over halfway. This is a much longer game than Banjo-Kazooie. And it isn't because there's a lot more worlds, but it is because Banjo-Tooie infamously is a much bigger game.
That's all I know about it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
It is ostensibly the same format as the first game, though there are a few tweaks and gameplay pacing changes that I think are superior to the first one. From the beginning of this game, you have all the abilities from the first game already unlocked. So if you finish Banjo-Kazooie, you can go straight into Banjo-Tooie, and the controls will feel the exact same. You'll already have the moveset you were familiar with from beating the first game, which allows you to, of course, unlock even more abilities, which expands their arsenal even further. And also, the first game had some weird things where you had to collect every golden note before leaving the level, or else they would all disappear. And then
Sure.
you'd have to go through and collect them all again. There are things like that that have been ironed out that make this, I think, a more smooth gameplay experience. But it just feels large. I mean, I think this is a great game, but the amount of backtracking and interconnectedness between the worlds
Yeah.
and having to unlock something in world 7 to go back to finish a jiggy in world 1, it is a little bit confused, but I don't think that really takes away from a lot of its magic. It just kind of doesn't feel as tightly crafted as the first one.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean I'm not a huge Banjo-Kazooie fan, but it's not about the mechanics, right? Really,
Yeah.
I think the game plays very well, and I think it's built incredibly soundly. It's kind of interesting to see the way that it almost seems like Rare lost their way a little bit with a 3D platformer with
Sure.
Tui and then with DK64, which just
Sure.
this game's got fucking bigger and more
Hmm.
cumbersome as you go
Yeah,
through
yeah,
this. So
yeah.
that they're releasing in 64. At the same time, they're fucking killing it with racing games and shooters and everything. So it's just kind of interesting to see. They were punching at the same way to Mario 64, or frankly, probably above it with Banjo-Kazooie.
Hmm.
Then they lost the plot a little bit.
Yeah.
And it makes me interested to see because
And
there's
they made
this.
Conquer somewhere in there, which
Oh,
I've
I
actually
always
not
forget.
played.
Yeah, I don't. To be honest with you, I barely even know how Conquer plays. To be honest with you, I don't know.
It's a 3D platformer.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was more of like an adventure game. I've never.
Those didn't really exist back then, frankly.
Yeah, I didn't know, but I didn't know if it was like their Zelda equivalent.
No,
You know what I'm
I don't
saying?
think so. Pretty sure. I'm
But
pretty. I'm like
sure.
93% sure it's a 3D platformer.
But it's just interesting to think about that in the context of like, oh, because there are all the rumors, fucking Banjo's coming back this E3. It's Banjo time. It's
Mhm.
Banjo time. We're really interested to see if somebody returning that franchise would take a scalpel to Tui and go, we got to do more Banjo One, or if
Yeah.
it's this sort of vision of the 3D platformer was Banjo Tui. But you're gonna finish it?
I'd like to. I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna once I finish the games that I'm focusing on right now, I'm gonna return to it because
Cool.
unfortunately I still have Xbox Game Pass. Uh,
Regrettably.
Regrettably, I still have Xbox Game Pass. So I would like to finish it because I like the game a lot. I like the
Yeah.
first one a lot. I think just having them both finished would feel nice and right in my brain. And I also do think that it's an interesting enough game, and I'm enjoying it enough to see it to the end. I think a lot of the fun parts of being a Banjo fan that I am from playing the first game and going into this game, it feels like it's for the fans because it is incredibly self-referential. Like you're constantly having characters, including Kazooie, reference the fact that the first game happened and call it the first game, and like, oh yeah,
Sure.
I remember you from that level in BanjoKazooie, and it's like, games aren't supposed to do that. They're not supposed to recognize it in the game, and it also is, it's darker than the first game. The game starts with Gruntilda being raised from the dead, so she's a skeleton in this
Yeah.
game because she died in the first one.
Spoilers.
And then she kills Bottles, and Bottles is dead.
That's
Uh,
cool.
and,
Fucking Bottles is annoying.
and so instead of Bottles, you have I think like Sergeant Goggles or something is like one of his family members. He's this military mole, and he pops out of a hole, and he's like hut 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 hut, and he teaches you your next move and whatever. It definitely has a lot of personalities, a lot more characters to talk to in this game, a lot more dialogue, and you also have Mumbo. You can play as Mumbo Jumbo and walk around the levels and step on Mumbo pads to make something happen. And there's also Humba Wumba transformations, and the Humba Wumba transformations are pretty funny. I think this is a great game. I'm willing to see it to the end, but I've certainly lost steam on it.
Yeah.
I haven't played it in almost 2 weeks. But that's just because I've been distracted by things. But it's also because the game can be a lot. Like I'll sit there and I'll play it for like 2.5 hours, and I'm like, whew, I beat like a little over a world here, and I feel like it should certainly have been tightened down. But yeah, it's worse than the first game, but I still think it's a very good game.
You're not a real Banjo-Kazooie fan because you haven't played the one on Game Boy Advance.
There's a couple of them.
Really?
There's Grunty's
would've-
Revenge and there's Banjo Pilot,
I want to say that there was one.
and there's also Nuts and Bolts, which I would like to play.
Of course, I mean, of course, you want to play Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah, Grunty's Revenge, I believe, is like an isometric game. It might be
Sure.
a platformer. I really have no fucking clue. And then there's also Banjo Pilot.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
It's a fucking flying game.
Let's talk about another flying game.
Oh, which is
Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
sure, yeah,
There's flying that game. Fucking give it to me.
yeah. I call it Lego Pilot. You know what I'm saying?
It's Lego Racers. That's a real game.
Sure.
But Tucker, the last time we talked about Lego Star Wars: Skywalker Saga was like a fucking acre of time ago. It was literally like
Yeah.
2 months ago because we talked about it right when the game came out. And
Not true because I talked about my experience with it as well.
but that doesn't count.
Yeah,
Pe-
great point. Sorry, forgot to think about it that way.
People want to hear what I have to say about Lego Star Wars.
Sure.
And here's the fact of the matter, Tucker. I like the game a lot less than when I first played it. But
Oh, really?
I found myself, here's a situation, because I've beaten the game now.
Mhm.
I reviewed it for Ninty Fresh magazine. I got a review copy of the Switch version, bought the game
Yeah.
myself on Xbox, and did a little bit of a fucking compare, like infamously, did a bit of a compare and contrast type of deal.
Sure.
Game, but believe it or not, the game runs better on Series X.
What?
um, but here's the situation, right? I think this game is just so there's just so much game here,
Sure.
and maybe here's another little parallel between Banjo Kazooie or in Banjo Tooie and then older
Hmm.
Lego games and this one. Sometimes you don't need to just throw more shit into your game to make it better. You know, the
Sure.
the game is modernized, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways. It's fucking open world, skill trees, fucking third person shooting, Devil May Cry like combos and everything. But a lot of it just doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, a lot of it doesn't matter. Tucker Hazel, not one time did I even do anything with a single skill tree on any of the characters.
You like purposefully avoided it, or
I forgot
just
that it was in
didn't?
the game.
Okay, didn't realize
I
that.
forgot that it was in the game.
Would that have increased your engagement with the game in any
No,
meaningful capacity?
no, because my feeling on it is this. If I do not even remember that the skill tree is in your game,
Mm-hmm.
my experience is not materially affected one way or the other by not engaging with that system.
Sure.
It's emblematic of a game that is designed around bloat.
Sure.
There's a lot of fucking bloat in this game. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of weird hacking mini games. There's a lot of not like one-off vehicle segments that don't feel right.
Mm.
This is a game that has a lot of ideas, but sometimes to make the stronger game, you have to focus in. You need to have a
On a
couple
couple
less things
ideas, yeah.
going on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think was special with the older Lego games. They were not complex. They were, and to the contrary,
No.
very,
Yeah.
very simple. But
Mm-hmm.
they executed that simplicity really, really well. They were great casual experiences to play with maybe people who don't play games as much, who just want to
Sure.
enjoy that source material, full of fan service. And then if you want a little bit more meat there, you went back through them as collectathons. And I think that was a
Mm-hmm.
really solid format. Now that
Sure.
applies here too, but when the fucking HUD is pinging with 8 million things and you've
Yeah.
got 75 systems to keep in the back of your head, you start to lose, I think, the spirit of the Lego games,
Sure.
which is a shame because that spirit is here in a much grander way than ever before. I think that this
Mm-hmm.
game is so fucking funny. I think that it is so full of love and fandom. I think it at a time when Star Wars fans are basically continually at each other's throats about dumb shit. Like a Star Wars is this fun, like unifying thing where
Dumb shit like
everybody's Star
racism.
Wars. It's complicated. The dumb shit, like, oh, that's my Star Wars. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's not real Star Wars. It doesn't fucking
My
matter.
Star Wars show.
Great show. Lego Star Wars comes in to level the playing field, makes fun of everything, and it's like it's just about having fun with Star Wars
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
continuing the emotional relationships you have to it, and because this franchise means a lot to a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and it celebrates that, but it also lets you poke a little bit of fun at it too, and I think that's really important. The
Yeah.
game does a whole ton right, and it is a lot of fun going around these open worlds. John and I played for several hours, just exploring, doing little puzzles, fucking collecting kyber bricks. That's all great, and there's some really great story missions too. I like this game, and I plan to keep playing it over time, chipping away at it
Interesting.
with Jean, because it's just fun to play together.
Sure.
But I don't think this is the game we were waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
I think that expectations got away from the community. They got away from TT games. It's clear that the game's scope expanded and contracted and expanded and contracted because there's
Yeah.
weird missions, like the whole Coruscant battle is missing. Stuff is missing. Weird systems that don't feel like they interlock. Like I said, with the skill trees are there. This game wasn't quite ready, I think.
Sure. Interesting.
And
That's
yeah,
interesting because this game has been in development for a while, for a long time.
yes.
Delay after delay, and to your chagrin, but I guess to this game's benefit, because can you imagine what it would have been like if it were released in 2020?
Yeah, and well, that's the other thing because the game is also very unstable. It's
Hmm.
really unstable on Switch.
Yeah.
I experienced a shit ton of issues on Switch, but there are like weird graphical hiccups and things across every version. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond polishing. I think it goes back to the fact that we know development restarted, they switched engines, things happened. Obviously, there was not one singular vision from day one as to what this game was going to be. And then
Mhm.
I think you feel that in the end. And then it's just it's big, it's messy, it's fun, but it could be better.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways, it's a good analog for Star Wars itself.
That's an excellent comparison. No, yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. I think that it's not a game I have any draw to go back to. I think that when I tried it and felt the bloat,
Yeah.
that was what turned me off immediately. I didn't really feel like pushing through story missions that I felt were kind of choppily designed, and then
Yeah.
in order to get to the story missions, which is what I was interested in, having to wade through open worlds, and then like, okay, well, I could go do some side quests, but the side quests are not as fleshed out. They're obviously very repetitive and stuff. Like for me, it was kind of like a
Right.
domino effect of if I don't want to do this, then I don't want to do this, and then blah, 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 blah. It's like I don't know if I can get into it. I think that ideally, if I had more time, if I frankly if I cared more, I'd like to go back to the original Lego Star Wars games or some of the older Lego games in general, because I haven't played them since I was a kid, and maybe try the collectathon aspect, which is something I enjoy out of games as a mature gamer that I am. But I remember playing some of the old Star Wars games when I was a kid and just not understanding how you're supposed to get the like mini kits and how will you unlock this character, and how, like, I didn't understand any of that at all. Of course, I'm sure I'm much more competent in understanding game design and returning to things and like seeing through games. I honestly don't think I ever beat one of the Lego Star Wars games when I was a kid. That I'm sure I'd find some entertainment value, but I'm not sure if the simplicity would work for me. But yeah, I think this is an interesting foil against those games, because I think what TT Games was going for here was obviously antithetical to that original design philosophy, but a game that is for people that played the original game, and if they made it the same simple gameplay, okay, it's not as accessible to people who aren't as experienced with games, but it's for people like you. They added these systems so that you wouldn't be playing the same kind of Lego Star Wars gameplay again, but then they haven't done a game this ambitious ever. Yeah. So they're obviously not that great at designing skill trees and all this stuff. Yeah. So it's a balance that I think might have worked in their favor if they had honestly been more experienced, put more thought into the new things we're adding.
I recommended this to you a while ago. If you're serious about wanting to play one of these Lego games, I think you should play Lego Force. Well, here's the situation. Let's just explore this as a thought experiment for a moment.
Sure. Okay.
Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Call me Sigmund. Because I'd be thinking.
Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens, I think, is a much better game than this.
Sure.
Because it retains a lot of that simple charm, but it implements a lot of the systems that were then fleshed out here, but in more restrained ways. There are third-person cover shooting segments there. There are much more traditional, arcadey, Star Fox-like dogfighting missions. Mm-hmm. Like, that gameplay is more complex. The puzzle a little bit more involved. There is an open world base hub to explore, similar to the hubs that were, popular in like the Lego Marvel superheroes games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That to me was refining and expanding Lego without expanding to the point of it just like exponentially becoming huger and huger until it's losing itself. So if you ever wanted to try one, at least might be fun to play with Rachel or something, because I know she's a Star Wars fan. That game, I think, is probably the one to go for. And it's on my PSN account, so...
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Well, I'm sure that's not the last that we're going to be talking about this game, as you...
Yes, there's an embargo on it. Never again. Never talking about it again.
There's a post-launch embargo. They're now banning people from talking about the game so that they don't spoil it for people. Joke went too far. Let's see. My turn?
Yeah, sure. Fuck it.
Ready for little old me? Little old me moved off of BanjoKazooie. I played through Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Pretty similar game, tonally, gameplay-wise. I'm not going to talk about that here. Card in the corner to the episode of My Star Wars Show, which is a great episode, because I think it's the best COD game I've played so far, and I think it's probably one of the best first-person shooter I've experienced. I digress. So, of course, I like to swing between extremes. I go BanjoKazooie, I go Modern Warfare 2. I go Modern Warfare 2, I go DK King of Swing. And, it's just how I roll. I like playing shit back to back that makes absolutely no sense as a companion piece. But DK King of Swing, I started basically on a whim. I'd always heard about it, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to dick around in it for a little bit. And the game surprised me in a couple ways, because what this game is, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a Game Boy Advance Donkey Kong game that is entirely different from any other previous Donkey Kong format. And of course, there'd been a number of those. You have country games, you have the arcadey ones, you have Donkey Kong 3. Donkey Kong's always weirdly experimental, quietly experimental with gameplay, and especially its spin-offs. But this game, developed by Payon, from the year of our Lord, 2005. 5.
Later than I thought.
Wow, such a new game. It is a spiritual successor to Clue Land. And the game doesn't explicitly showcase that until the very end, in which if you 100% everything, you unlock Bubbles from Clue Land as a playable character, which is pretty fun. So you are controlling Donkey Kong, and you are gripping onto pegs in the environment, and he automatically rotates around. And if you let go, he goes flying in a little arc. And so you're navigating through these environments, charging up your attack to hit enemies, collecting medals because that's the thing that you collect in this game. Getting bananas, so if you collect 10 bananas, you can heal yourself for 1 heart. It's a very simple game gameplay wise, but man, they do everything they can with this gameplay concept, and it just keeps ramping up. And this game gets very hard. I was absolutely abusing the heck out of the save state feature here on illegal on my laptop, which I was using. But I think this is actually a surprisingly good game. I think I might not have enjoyed it as much if I had to deal with its bullshit of the later levels if I didn't have save states. I'm not sure if I had this game physically, I never would have beat it, frankly. But I did finish the game, and I'm a fan of DK King of Swing.
Yeah, I haven't played it. I've expressed in the past that its sequel, DK Jungle Climber, was the first Nintendo game I ever actually had. My parents had that for me with my DS, and I remember being largely indifferent towards it.
Sure.
And wanting another game. So my parents got me New Super Mario Bros.
Yeah.
Which I was a lot more happy with.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting concept. I actually bought King of Swing and started playing it, but I fucked up my finger somehow. And I was like, oh, well, it's on the left hand. Let's play a game. It's fine because how often am I going to have to hit L? And then
bumper,
but then if you're playing King of Swing, it's the entire game. But it's very clever in that sense. There's a real sense of tactile feedback to it as you're fucking bonking those shoulder buttons to move his hands. It is a clever game. It's not one that has much interest to me.
Sure.
Because when I think about Donkey Kong, what I love about Donkey Kong is going through Donkey Kong's worlds. And so just scrambling around some pegboards for me isn't really why I like that franchise.
Well, yeah, I guess, believe it or not, that's not the focus of the franchise.
Yeah. But it's interesting to look at that period where there was a complete fucking identity crisis of Donkey Kong. And they're like, I don't know, let Payon make a bunch of random shit.
Yeah.
If you want to hear more about that, if you want to hear more about the Palooza, well, I think I just messed up my microphone.
You did a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine now. Buy this fucking Bad Jackson right here. Ninty Fresh issue 6, where it's all about Donkey Kong. And my good friend Josh Goldie, much more knowledgeable about Nintendo than myself, wrote all about Payon. Very interesting.
So he talked about King of Swing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Maybe I'll have to read it.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to mention about this, because you mentioned the pegs and the boards not being like Donkey Kong levels, Donkey Kong Country levels especially, being very lush, very detailed. This has that in a roundabout way, because this game is gorgeous pixel art wise. It has incredibly detailed backgrounds with a sun setting over a lake with some bungalows by it and stuff like that, and you're going through caves and you're going through jungles and you're doing all this DK stuff, and of course it's got green and yellow pegs covering that, so obviously it's not the focus of it, but I do think this game is very impressive technically in terms of how smooth the animations are, and you're watching these animations of Donkey Kong talk to Cranky Kong at the beginning of the game, and he's getting mad and stomping his cane. It's such an expressive and vibrant game. It's got a really satisfying and unique color palette. And also this game has a lot of content. There are time trial modes. There is a racing mode, which you could link cable to your friend and race with 15 playable characters or something like that. It's a surprisingly rich game in terms of content. And even though, for me, abusing save states, the game took me 2.5 hours to finish, I think that's a perfect length for it.
Yeah, I do.
And they really do experiment with a lot of different gameplay mechanics and level mechanics and stuff like that. And you never upgrade your character. It's just about your technical skill with the swinging and the grabbing. But Donkey Kong, I implore people to give this game a try. I think that I don't know if I would have spent money on it. I think if you are
$8 in the Wii U shop,
if you're a moral scoundrel like me and don't have a Wii U like most people on this planet, just head to Vim's Lair and download the ROM. It took me literally 10 seconds to get it, and then I started playing it. And I think that's absolutely the best way to experience it.
Okay, speaking of 10 seconds, you got 10 seconds to entertain the audience while you close my window, because there's people having a fucking hullabaloo out there.
Well, we can't hear it on this end, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see, what is that in the background? Was that Breath of the Wild Link versus Twilight Princess Link? Oh, that's interesting.
God, I hope they didn't click away when during that time off camera.
Blah.
Okay, let's talk about a game that I've got no segue for.
Okay.
Let's talk about KO the Kangaroo.
Yeah, there's no segue there.
Another game I got a review copy for. I reviewed this over at Possible Gamer. You can go read my review now. The game's fine. I have really not much to say about KO the Kangaroo. It's one of the shortest
Yeah,
reviews I've ever written. Ultimately, what interested me about this game in the first place is that KO the Kangaroo is a Dreamcast platformer.
yeah.
And
I'm actually gonna look up gameplay of the original game.
sure. And so I was like, oh shit, that's kind of cool. Obviously, this game owes itself to Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
This is basically Crash Bandicoot 4, but for KO the Kangaroo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, is it not a
not a
remake of the
remake.
original game?
It's a
No,
reboot. Yep.
okay, interesting.
And it's fine. The here's the thing. It walks and talks like it's fucking Spyro reignited or Crash 4 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but it's operating with a fraction of the budget. This game is noticeably low budget. You can especially tell in the looping music. You can especially tell in some of the collision detection and everything, but
Sure.
particularly in the cutscenes, which are very flat. And the VO is so fucking weird in this game. KO the Kangaroo sounds like Christopher Walken, and it makes no sense. Go listen to KO the Kangaroo speak. It's fucking uncanny. And
Interesting.
and unfortunately, this sort of weirdness is kind of it doesn't it's just weird. Like it's not irreverent. Like there's no sense of tone evoked by it, right?
Uh-huh.
And the game just is kind of there. As far as 3D platformers go, it is quite pretty in motion.
Sure.
It controls totally fine. I think the fundamentals are there.
Mm-hmm.
But KO the Kangaroo does literally nothing that you haven't seen before,
Sure.
and it owes most of its ideas to other platformers. I mean, some of the most inspired levels are levels where you're running at the screen as you're being chased, which is
Yeah.
just Crash Bandicoot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the game is cheap. I think it's a $30 game. If you can get it on sale for like half of that, it's a totally serviceable, pretty fun 3D platformer. But
Yeah.
we're in an era where you have so much more than totally serviceable, pretty fun 3D platformers.
True. Yeah.
And so because of that, I find it hard to really motivate any excitement about this game.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of hope that this signals more companies putting effort and effort to the extent that whatever they did in this game into the 3D platformer genre, because we've seen a mild resurgence of the genre in the last few years with Odyssey and Psychonauts 2 and Hat in Time and Yooka-Laylee and stuff like that, but they're still relatively few and far between, and I'd like to see more companies do like mascot 3D platformers, collectathon 3D platformers, especially high budget ones in the vein of Odyssey and Psychonauts. But I think this is just an example of the like growth off of that. It's not what I want. It's not the big budget 3D platformer return to the genre that I want. It's like someone trying to do that but not quite reaching those heights. And I think that's interesting in its own regard, but it also reminds me a lot of Super Lucky's Tale, which is a game that I played and promptly forgot about. And actually, similar to you got that game, you reviewed it, and it has never mattered since.
No, I think Super Lucky's Tale is a little bit more interesting than this, frankly.
Okay.
Just because it at least has a couple more of its own ideas.
Mm-hmm.
This really is like, it really feels like a bunch of people sat together and said, look at what Crash Bandicoot did. Look at this IP we can get for probably really cheap. Remember, they already owned it. I don't know exactly what was happening there, but we can do that too. And they did. But it just didn't really pan out the way Crash did. You know what I mean? So, KO the Kangaroo.
What are we going to do about it? Let's head over to another... Okay, I don't want to do an insulting transition for this, because let's start the energy in a proper place. I played and completed Kirby's Dreamland 2. Which means that I have now completed the first 5 games in the Kirby franchise. Although I played Superstar Ultra and not Superstar on SNES. Fucking semantics.
I don't think I've ever played Superstar on SNES.
No, yeah, and not really necessary.
There's no reason to.
The better version of the worst game is on DS.
Sure.
And Kirby's Dreamland 2 doesn't. It's another Kirby game, and I don't mean to like keep doing this cycle, but I think what interests me about Kirby is that people do like these games quite a bit, and I am certainly in the minority of people who find the gameplay design and such pretty poor. And I'm always looking through these Kirby games as I play my way through the franchises. As of the end of this episode, I will have completed 12 games in the Kirby franchise, which is a lot, and close to on par with you, I believe, if not more.
I don't know. We'd have to go pound for pound.
Yeah, and we can, and we should. Um, but Kirby Dream Land 2 doesn't really do much that that gives me hope for the franchise outside of the Animal Friends, which I think are an improvement over Adventure in Dreamland, because they add some gameplay variety and beating a boss and rescuing Rick, Kangaroo, and seeing how their bodies and Kirby's bodies morph together to change the few power-ups that you have in this game, or copy abilities rather, into mildly different versions is kind of fun to experiment with. But in terms of it being like 2 hours long and not having much different in terms of game level design or gameplay mechanics outside of those the Animal Friends, it doesn't really have that much of its own identity. And I would say if you're looking for classic 2D Kirby, well, okay, classic Kirby, of course there's only one 3D Kirby game, classic Kirby, and you want one with Animal Friends, I would just say go for Dreamland 3, because I think it does have a stronger identity with a more impressive art style. I just think it's the better game all around. So Dreamland 2 just obviously was a predecessor to 3. The Kirby franchise has constantly been taking baby steps, and it's really easy to feel those baby steps if you play the first few entries released, like, all within under a decade, and all feeling pretty samey and all being pretty short, and you can feel a couple ideas being added each time, but I don't think they're substantial enough to honestly warrant having a sequel. And I guess Dreamland 3 is probably my favorite of this bunch.
Yeah, I haven't played Dreamland too. I think you're probably right. I mean, Kirby was just there fucking hammering these things out back to back. And, people...
Plus all the fucking spin-offs.
Right. And I think people like Dreamland too. They like the Animal Friends. I knew you were going to enjoy exploring Rick's body. So I knew that there were certain ideas there that were going to compel you. Yep. But yeah, I don't know. There are, in my opinion, there are Kirby games that are excellent platformers. You disagree on Superstar, but I would put that in the bunch. But I put that in the bunch with then Robobot, and then I put that in the bunch with Forgotten Land.
Yeah.
So Robobot's gonna be really interesting when I come to visit you next month when you play that. See how you feel.
Yep. I'm actually excited.
But then I think there's a tier of quite solid Kirby games. Your Triple Deluxes and your Star Allies and things that are totally fine. Solid, well polished platformers. Probably throw a Squeak Squad in there. And there's a bunch of them that are just interesting if you care about Kirby.
Sure.
And you're kind of traveling down this avenue of games that are going to literally not even by a modicum of a degree sway your opinion on the series. No. So I think it's interesting that you're filling in those holes, but it's I think there's a reason why, who gives a fuck about Dreamland 2 right now? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That is absolutely true, though. Having finished the game and gone online and watched, the completionist episode about it, and a bunch of different people have talked about this game, and all seem to like it, and I think it is for no different reasons from why they like the other Kirby games. This is of course just on that track. It is better than Adventure in Dreamland, but not by a pretty substantial amount.
Sure.
So I don't know. I like doing this, frankly. I know it's kind of sick. I know it's kind of twisted, but each time I play one of these Kirby games, I kind of am able to, I'm able to solidify what I find interesting about each specific game, add that to the larger Kirby ethos in my mind, but also use the pros and cons of each game to sort of strengthen my resolve in this is why I dislike this in comparison to other platformers. And I find the franchise interesting because it is so prolific and to a certain extent popular. These games don't sell incredibly well, but they sell good for the amount of fucking games that there are in the franchise. But Dreamland 2 was just kind of one that I'm like, hey, I've played Dreamland Adventure, Dreamland 3. I've never played Dreamland 2. I might as well finish it and see if there are any changes, if it does have any different identity. It doesn't really, but I didn't really expect it to, frankly. So I wasn't disappointed by the game.
Sure. What's next for me? Katamari Damacy reroll.
This is gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah, this game's fucking awesome. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I don't think I hold Katamari in the reverence a lot of people do.
Sure.
But I had a wonderful time playing this game. Here's where I come down on it. Like, to me, this was, I gave the game what I give it here. Consulting the website I use all the time,
9 out of 10.
Letterboxd. I did. That's what I did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I think this game is excellent. I have no interest in playing another Katamari game.
Sure. Okay.
Because I think that I got my fill of this idea right here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real fucking cool satisfaction to starting as your little fucking king. You need the prince, right? Starting as a little prince, your little fucking not even 1 meter big Katamari, right?
Yeah.
And you grow and grow and grow. By the time I beat that final level, I was like fucking 800 meters big or whatever, right? And I'm rolling up islands, I'm rolling up twisters, I'm rolling up fucking huge crabs and stuff. I was like, damn, I just saw the progression of Katamari, and for me, that's all I needed.
Yeah.
Because that couple afternoons I spent with that fucking bossa nova soundtrack kicking around in the background, and I'm fucking rolling up these guys, and there's just shit everywhere. There's fucking crabs and sandals and fucking pencils and condom wrappers and fucking hamburgers and kangaroos wearing top hats, right? And indiscriminately, I'm putting them all in this big ball, and the fucking cows are mooing as I roll them up, and the swimmers are screaming, and the fucking Katamari is in the background, right? It's awesome. The game's really awesome. But I hate the controls.
Sure.
Even playing with simple controls, I really that's what holds the game back.
There is a simple control option?
There's a simple control option.
Didn't know about that.
This is a me issue. I get the controls. I think I don't understand why I can't just move the camera with the right stick and just roll wherever the fuck I want with the left. Maybe it makes the game too simple. Maybe obviously that push and pull of the controls is part of what keeps very basic gameplay engaging, right?
Yeah.
But not for me. It ended up feeling like more of a hindrance, right? But on the whole, that's like a minor point in comparison to just the charm of the experience of building my Katamari until it's fucking size of the moon, right?
Yeah.
And I love the cutscenes. They're so weird. The king of all cosmos talking to me in a different language when I start each stage. The game is just fucking shot in the arm of weirdness, right?
Yep.
And that's great. And that's exactly what I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But on a mechanical level, I don't know if it connected the right synapses for me personally to go and search out the other, 4 or 5 Katamari games there are.
Yeah, there's a number of them. And having played most of them to a certain extent, the only other one that I've completed is We Love Katamari, which I have on PS2. And I do think that I'd be interested for you to try that game even just a little bit on PS2 hardware. You know, I think that game has enough of its own ideas to warrant a sequel, but a number of the Katamari games in the sequels of We Love Katamari, Freudian slip, Beautiful Katamari and Katamari Forever, and oh shit, what's
Touch My Katamari, right? It's one of them.
Yeah, well, I don't have that one, but that game's fucking like $70 for a Vita copy. Me and My Katamari, they're just do Katamari on another system, and for me, that's enough to have fun with him for a little bit. But how much I got into and loved Katamari Damacy, and of course Katamari Damacy Reroll, which is the exact same game with a few tweaks here and there.
Right.
I think the controls are an interesting point. I think obviously I agree with you categorically on all of the points of its charm and its weirdness and stuff. And I think obviously that's why the game stands out and is iconic and important in people's minds. And it's Keita Takahashi's irreverent creativity that I think makes his game stand out, even if they don't always hit. He always has an idea. He has this concept of game design in his mind of what can a game be. Like, people are doing all this stuff, but I just want to like try something different. Even if it doesn't work, I really respect that. I really appreciate that. For me, he's my Kojima or Suda, like in terms of being really unique and no one like him in the industry. And Damacy and Damacy Reroll, I think the controls for me are a really important part of why this game is unique, because I don't feel like it would have been particularly engaging to roll around. Sure, I can understand that it's frustrating to get used to these controls and you click them in to jump over, you rev them up to roll and stuff like that. I understand that it's cumbersome, but I think I don't think it's contestable. It's intentionally cumbersome. Like, this was designed around gameplay is the first and foremost focus, but I think that connecting irreverent gameplay to irreverent controls makes the game even more unique, because if it was just rolling around with the stick, I really don't feel like the game would have stood out that much, and it proves like Takahashi's commitment to trying something new, and that commitment I think is why the game stands out and the franchise stands out to the degree that it does.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. But I just think that, like, if you're remaking the game, right, Make the simple controls just simple controls. Don't make them fucking
What are
complicated.
the what do the
It's
simple controls do?
ostensibly you still have to use both of the sticks. It's just a little bit different. Like you don't have to push both sticks forward to roll. You only need to push one stick forward to roll, and then the right stick you can use to kind of like rotate around the Katamari. But it just feels so cumbersome to the point where it was taking me out of the fun of, because to me Katamari is not about the controls. To me, it's about the puzzle of,
Sure.
damn, how am I going to incrementally increase my size to get to that
Yeah.
goal in time, right? But when I was losing runs, because also the stages get progressively longer. So for some of them, they got kind of demoralizing to be there for 10 minutes and feel like, fuck, I just can't turn my Katamari. And again, this is a subjective issue with me because I just couldn't fucking wrap my head around them. But it's just like, yeah, it's intentional, but the game is so, it doesn't, I don't think it needs a weird control scheme to succeed on the merits of everything else going on there.
Sure,
So to me, it's
I
just
think
like,
I think that's true. I think its strongest elements are everything in the game, and the controls are something that I appreciate and understand, but I can understand them not clicking. I do think that there is a hump of understanding that that if you get over that, or are able to get over that, or care to get over that, frankly, I do feel like they are immersive in an interesting way. I, having played quite a bit of Katamari, am very experienced with these controls and can get my Katamari anywhere I want, and it's way more granular than just being able to move it around. I can rev up, I can hop around, I can do these things that allow me to navigate through these worlds in a way that I think is more, if you're able to adapt to it, allows you a greater degree of control and feels unique. I think that it kind of also, these kind of things apply to why it's fun to play Smash with items on, or the bullshit of getting hit with an ink thing in Mario Kart. Like, it is bullshit. It does screw things up a little bit, but I think there's fun in it not working in your favor all the time. Like, I feel like that kind of gameplay philosophy isn't for every game and shouldn't be for every game. But when a game is designed around that, I think that it's important. Like, the game fights back against you a little bit, and it makes it silly. It makes it fun.
It does, but it also makes it frustrating to me because I don't view them through that lens. I view them through the lens of me playing Resident Evil on GameCube and thinking the tank controls suck dick. Right.
Sure.
To me, there's no difference between the tank controls in Resident Evil and the regular controls in Katamari. Because to me, then the people who love tank controls in Resident Evil say you need tank controls in Resident Evil because you're at a disadvantage against the other things in Spencer Mansion.
Sure.
And that builds that immersion, right? But to me, playing Resident Evil on GameCube in like 2019, like, well, I just played Resident Evil 2 Remake, right? And Resident Evil HD, the remake of that game, gets rid of the tank controls. You can still play with them, but you have the option to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And all I think is that there's a in my opinion, a difference between something being cumbersome in an enjoyable way and cumbersome in an old way. Because to me, it feels like Takahashi is like, what if I did a completely different control scheme?
Yeah, obviously, yes.
And then nobody else does that. And I think, to me, there's a merit to streamlining and standardizing certain things of game design. It's why if you jump with the X button, unless you're Breath of the Wild, because your game is so good that it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
You're screwing up. Jump is on the bottom.
Well, don't you still jump with the X button in that game?
But again, I love this game. I think this game is excellent.
Yeah.
Because again, the controls frustrated me, but they don't majorly take away from the weirdness of saying, today I'm rolling in the world, right?
Yeah.
And how am I going to grow? Okay, first I'm going to get the batteries. After I get the batteries, I'm going to get the socks. And then I'm going to get the fruit. And then I'm going to get the penguins. And when I get the penguins, I'm going to be big enough to get the fucking person. And with the person, I can sit on the bridge. And as all these mermen and fish jump over the bridge, they'll get stuck in my Katamari on the way. And that is just a gameplay experience and a level of creativity that I can't even fathom.
No, yeah, exactly. And I think that can't even fathomness is maybe where the disconnect between Katamari and the rest of the industry comes from. Because you're right. No one took Takahashi's weird fucking control scheme and was like, I can do that but better. No. These are the Katamari controls. They are so intrinsically designed, connected to, you are rolling around this giant fucking ball, and it's got things sticking off of it in weird ways, so it's bumping around, and you're a tiny little guy pushing around. The controls are directly related to the gameplay in a way that I don't think can be removed. I don't think, unless you do a direct Katamari ripoff where you're a guy pushing around a ball and collecting things, these controls wouldn't work for any other kind of game. And it's the unique gameplay and the unique controls, I do think, support each other in a way that makes this stand out from everything else. And frankly, I'm glad there aren't Katamari ripoffs. I don't think anyone could do this quality of game and quality of irreverence to the level that Takahashi did, especially with this original game and some of the elements of some of the sequels. But I like that it's weird. I like that the controls don't always work, but they can work if you're able to get used to them. And I also like that no one else has done this, that it wasn't influential. And I think it makes it stand out in a really important and unique way. It's like, I would push back against, like, personally, that they feel old, because I think if Takahashi was 30 years younger and he made this game for PS4, exact same game, I don't think he would have changed the controls. I don't think, because controllers haven't changed. The DualShock, or the DualSense, is not that different from the DualShock 2. It's 2 sticks, and fucking go have a heyday. And so, like, I feel like that's maybe the difference of why they don't feel old. Resident Evil 1 on the PS1 was designed around that, because there weren't analog sticks at the time, and you couldn't do first-person shooting in that, or third-person shooting in that way. But the PS2 controller and the PS5 controller have the same buttons almost entirely. So, like, I guess that's why I would say that it doesn't really feel old, because I don't think there's any reason to necessarily change it. Though I would agree that they should have had a different option for reroll.
Yeah.
They're remaking the original game. They're making it more accessible. Absolutely. Have more controls. Have something that allows someone like you to experience the game to its fullest capacity without being frustrated. But that didn't even register in my brain, because when I was playing reroll, I was like, I'm just playing Katamari on the go and in HD, and it was fucking phenomenal.
Sure.
Kirby 64. We're hopping over from Kirby Dreamland 2 to Kirby 64, and
Sure.
Hot take. This is one of the best Kirby games. I really do think it is.
I'm not sure that's actually a hot take. Then that's what's interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
I think people really love this game.
Okay, well, you're the only person I've ever talked to about Kirby 64, right, and you thought it was mediocre, and then as we get into the slowness, turned you off and stuff. But so Kirby 64, first 3D Kirby game, uses a dynamic camera and depth in the backgrounds to give Kirby levels a lot more visual flair and creativity. And I think from that regard, that's why I would consider this one of the best Kirby games. Having the dynamic camera, having levels that are physically deep and allow for different things to be in the foreground, in the background, I think gives them a lot more distinctness and personality. That is something that bugs me with a lot of the strictly 2D Kirby games. Of course, the game plays in 2D, but it is in 3D. Is I always feel like Kirby's stages feel like they could have happened in any Kirby game. It's a donut floating in the sky, it's stars falling out of a thing, and yeah, that is cute, and I like Kirby's interesting aesthetic because of that, but the stages in this game, no two are alike, and even within those stages, you're making a progression, but through a factory and watching something get made in the background. It's the way that I feel the worlds of Mario 64 are fun, but they just feel like sandboxes. But then when you step over to Sunshine, they're a place with a story.
Sure.
And I feel like having places with stories and very dynamic and distinct levels is part of my problem with the Kirby games, is they always do feel relatively samey. And this one kind of sidesteps that by having an entirely different level design philosophy. I feel like there are actually things in the levels that I have to avoid or interact with in order to get to the end of the level, which I really have almost never felt with in Kirby games, except for some of the modern ones, Triple Deluxe or things of that nature. But with that, and the, I think, impressively quality animations, and you've got these 4 or 5 other characters supporting you, and you ride on DDD, and Adeline's in the background giving you little painted foodstuffs, and I think there's a lot of charm to this game that gives it personality, and I vastly prefer the game's levels.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but also the game's so fucking boring to play, and this is my problem because of the speed of the engine. Mm-hmm. It ruins the game for me because I think you're right. I when I think back on this game in a positive sense, I think about the ways that, as you're saying, there's a real sense of place to it, and it's not a 3D game in a mechanical sense, but in a presentational sense, it really does do cool things with the N64 hardware. The way you'll rotate as you move through it, or you'll walk at a diagonal towards the screen or whatever. That is, it gives it a real sense of atmosphere. And the combo abilities I love.
Yeah.
turn Kirby into fucking fireworks or refrigerator. There's a lot of really good ones there.
Mm-hmm.
But Kirby is a man with a methodical pace in this game.
Yeah.
He's
A methodical
he
plan.
he moves at one speed, and if you run, you're just fucking doing this instead of this.
Yeah.
And to me, it ruins the flow of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it really not enjoyable to play as a result of that.
Sure.
So this is a great example to me of a game ruined by one thing. Because
Interesting.
otherwise, I would agree with you. I'd certainly put it up in the top tier of Kirby games, but I just can't because it's just so slow for me personally.
Yeah.
Can't get
No,
over it.
that's interesting. I don't think you're wrong. I think that is
Yeah.
absolutely the thing that holds it back from. I mean, look, I'm saying I like this more than other Kirby games,
Yeah.
but it's really in comparison. I don't think this is a phenomenal game. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I think it's a good game, which I can't really say, at least from my perspective, about most of the other Kirby games I've played. But it being slow is absolutely its weakest aspect. Though I think maybe the reason why it doesn't stick out to me in comparison, or harm it in comparison to the other Kirby games, is I've always felt that Kirby was slow. I feel like the
Sure.
slow combat and floating your way slowly through these levels and this walking speed being so fucking slow in all these games has always felt to me like what has turned me off. So Kirby being like noticeably slower, but not like I wouldn't say like detrimentally slower, at least for me in this game, didn't really break that. I'm like, fuck, he's slow. But I've also thought he was slow in like literally all the other games. So from that regard, like, doesn't really disconnect. But I've put this up near the top of my Kirby ranking. Granted, there are only a few Kirby games I would consider personally excellent or great. But I think this is a good game, and on N64 Online with the save states and not rewind. N64 games don't have rewind. It was a great way to play it and just pop in, beat a level or two, and not have to, because it's also a little bit longer of a game than
but not
the other
substantially.
older Kirby 2D Kirby games. But yeah, I had a good time with it. And it showed me why I'm still interested in pushing through all these Kirby games, even if I don't enjoy the majority of them. There are aspects to certain ones that I think, oh, this is where Kirby, this is what the other Kirby games have been lacking for me. And it's like, okay, now then I can specifically pinpoint, like, oh, because the first 4 or 5 didn't have this, that's why I wasn't as engaged with them. And then I was more engaged with this one. I find that balance very interesting.
Yeah, that's fair. You're a stronger man than I, because I can't fucking do what you do. But I mean, you've got to be getting. You haven't played Robobot. You haven't played Squeak Squad.
Amazing Mirror.
Amazing Mirror. I've never
Return
played
to
Amazing
Dreamland.
Mirror. Return to Dreamland. It's just a remake of Adventure. So ultimately,
It is?
yeah. Wait. Did you say Nightmare in Dreamland or Return to Dreamland?
Return to Dreamland.
Return to Dream. Yeah, Return to Dreamland's the original game.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was confused. No, I have played Nightmare in Dreamland.
Yeah, Return to Dreamland's okay. I never finished that one. I played a bit of it in co-op with my aunt, but I guess I'll be hearing about these other Kirby games from you very soon.
Not very soon.
Not very soon.
I go through cycles of playing 1 or 2 Kirby games and then waiting a couple months. Like, who knows when I'll get to another one, frankly.
Next month.
Oh, great point. Yes.
Robotbot.
My bad.
Robotbot.
What do you got next?
Liberation Maiden.
Oh yeah, of course you do.
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
This is a wicked cool Suda 51 game. Suda 51 Grasshopper manufacturer, 3DS digital exclusive title. Buy it before the storefront shuts down. This was released as part of the Guild 01 collection. If people aren't familiar, basically Guild 01 and Guild 02 were compilations of bite-sized eShop exclusives on 3DS. Yeah. All done by various famous Japanese creators. People who worked on Final Fantasy, made a game called Crimson Shroud. Suda makes this game called Liberation Maiden. Effectively what it is, it's about an hour-long, high score-based arcade shooter. Let's say that. It's a high score-based arcade shooter. Basically, think of like in a sense, the format of all range Star Fox missions.
Okay.
But the combat is different. Like basically, you on the touch screen, you are holding down. It's a touch and release. When you release, you fire. So you hold down, and you like lock on to targets, release to fire. But your projectiles are also your shields. So you kind of have to manage attack and defense. You want to go all out for that fucking combo, knock out some enemies. But then if you do, you leave yourself open, right?
Sure.
I think the reason the game succeeds is because it's so blisteringly crazy.
Yeah.
The rock solid presentation and technical performance on 3DS, but shit's blowing up all around you. You're fucking moving like a madman. You're moving, you're grooving, you're shooting your way through the 5 stages of the game. You're going up against humongous bosses, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're playing as the president. You're the president of Japan is dead.
Of course, he is.
You're his daughter. You're flying around in a fucking mech and you're fighting off invading forces to defend Japan. That's the plot of the game. It's wacky. There's a visual novel sequel to it on PS3. Very interesting. Called Liberation Made in Sin. But you really play it for that sense of craziness of zipping around, finding yourself in that flow state as you're racking up combos, dodging attacks, and because your offense and defensive capabilities are linked together, there's a real sense of franticness as you fired at everything you have. You're like fucking Mav and Rooster at the end of Top Gun Maverick. You're like, I got into my countermeasures, but they're all gone. I gotta wait for them to come back. Right? It's really a hectic experience, and I enjoyed it a lot. I personally, of the 3DS eShop exclusives that I've played, it's my favorite.
Sure. What's the competition?
I don't fucking know. Just let me say it's my favorite.
Okay, no. I'm just curious, but I don't know what you like.
I like the Pushmo games, like the Box Boy games.
Sure.
Sure. I like some of the Pokemon ones. I think actually Pokemon Battle Troze is quite a fun game. The Mario versus Donkey Kong, I forget what the subtitle is, but it plays differently. It's like a 3D one. You're fucking moving pieces around. The Marios and marching that way on top. There's quite a number on 3DS I enjoy, but none that I like as much as Liberation Made. So $8. Sure. Give it a shot. Suda game. Fucking cool action game. I think it belongs up in the conversation, like a Sin and Punishment and things.
Sure.
It's that good. So play it or don't. I don't fucking care.
Okay. Well, I can't really add anything. I didn't really play other Suda games, but I played Jill Dozer. I didn't beat Jill Dozer. I played some of Jill Dozer. So Jill Dozer is it's a Game Freak game.
It's a Game Freak game.
It's a Game Freak game on Game Boy Advance, in which you play as a little character named Jill in a mech suit with Big Drill in the front called a Jill Dozer. And you and your buddies are breaking into this fucking indiscriminate base to steal a crystal that I think they stole from you. Some horseshit fucking story. Doesn't matter. And the gameplay revolves around you going around these 2D platforming levels in your Jill Dozer and trying to find gears to upgrade your drill so you can drill through significantly increasingly tougher and tougher walls. Sure. And as you get 1 gear, 2 gear, 3 gears, your drill goes faster. It can bust through harder walls, and it also drills through the simpler walls even quicker. And I think that gameplay structure in itself is fine. I played this game for an hour and a half. I got through like the first level and a half. They're pretty meaty levels / worlds. It's actually a pretty long game. I think maybe like 9 hours long or something like that. But while I like the pixel art and I like the concept, I really think that it kind of is just 2D platforming with more steps. Like you want to get from one room to the other. You can't just walk there. You got to wait for your drill to drill through these bricks to get to the other side of the wall. And while the drill goes faster, you're going through tougher and tougher walls, so the amount of time it takes you to get through these walls takes about the same amount of time. So you're level 1 gear, you're going through simple walls, boom, boom. Okay, alright, you got 2 gears, you're going through level 2 wall, boom. Takes about the same amount of time. And so every time I just got to a new gear, I felt like, oh, I'm going to feel more powerful now. But you don't really. You can just get to a new area at about the same speed. And otherwise, that really is, at least from what I've played, and I can't imagine it gets particularly more complex than that. Although there is gear upgrades and stuff like that you can get later on. It's simple, but I feel like it kind of just builds walls for itself. It's preventing me from getting the satisfaction that I want. I want to be able to have this drill and go, okay, I've got a great drill now. I'm really going to feel great. But I just kind of never felt that energy. And I'm sure it's a good game if you're able to push past that. And it's meaty. It's got extra things in it. But I from the little bit that I played, I really was not hooked.
Yeah, I know very little about Drill Dozer. All I know is it comes with a fucking big ass rumble pack on top of
Yeah,
its cartridge, which probably makes drilling through the walls a bit more
exciting.
haptically interesting.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's I've never been compelled by it. And it doesn't really you're not really doing much to fucking
No.
sway me. But I think it might. I don't want to do it because I don't think the games are that good. But it would be interesting to like chronicle the non-Pokemon Game Freak games.
Sure.
You know, rolling through this into fucking Harmo Knight and Tembo the Badass
Yeah.
Elephant and Pocket Card Jockey and Little Town Hero. I think Pocket Card Jockey is the only one people like, really.
Hmm.
Well, Drill
Okay.
Dozer I actually think is pretty well acclaimed too. I don't
Yeah.
fucking
No,
know.
it
I'm
is. It
ta- I'm
is.
talking on behalf of people I don't know, so I don't
Yeah.
even know why I bother. But yeah, just played it on a whim.
Yeah. No, I was just
Yeah.
like never played Drill Dozer before.
Sure.
Had my fill of it. Had my drill of it.
Tucker, I also had my fill of Disc Room by the time I completed it. This is a
In a good way
really,
or a bad way?
I think in a both way.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing about Drill Dozer, Disc Room. Disc Room, my friend Benjamin Hayho recommended it to me. He goes, play Disc Room. It's on Game Pass. You can beat it in like an hour. It
Yeah.
took me like 2.5 because I'm not very good at this game.
Hmm.
Basically, what Disc Room is, it's like this weird sci-fi game where these fucking people on the ship, and I think the ship crashes. It's told through very minimalistic cutscenes that frankly I wasn't paying attention to.
Yeah.
But the crux of the game is you're exploring what is ostensibly like I thought of it first like a Metroidvania map, but it's almost more of like a Zelda dungeon map, pretty much.
Okay.
You're going through these rooms, and each room is a little puzzle. And ostensibly, it's like a bullet hell game. To pass each room, you have to some extent, either run up a timer or run down a timer. Various ways to do this. But the idea of the game is you're this little fucking spaceman, right? And there's buzz saws of various shapes and sizes and movement patterns and
Discs, if you will.
aggressions. Yes, discs that are attacking you. So you got to fucking weave around them, and sometimes you got to collect little pellets on the ground. Sometimes you just got to stay alive. Sometimes you only gain time by staying in a particular circle in the room. Sometimes there's just like tiles on the ground. You have to get rid of. You have to like touch all the tiles to open up the doors. And each there's that primary challenge: survive for X number of seconds, die in X number of seconds, do A, do B, do C, and these open up different paths
Sure.
throughout the world. And what's interesting is that it's kind of a reflex based action game, but it's also in some ways like a puzzle game. You might enter a room and have no fucking clue how to solve it. For instance,
Sure.
there's a room I entered in where it's pitch black. You can't see,
Yeah.
you can't do anything. I didn't know what to do, so I went a different way to beat the game. I was talking to Ben afterwards, what he discovered, because you get these different, in the Metroidvania sense, you get various power ups.
Sure.
One is called Absorb. You can absorb a buzzsaw and take it somewhere.
Mhm.
What Ben did is he found a glowing saw in another room, absorbed it, carried it back to the room when it was in pitch black, spit it back out, and they could solve the puzzle.
Sure.
There's various ways that the game like folds back in on itself
That's cool. Yeah.
in clever senses. It's also fucking hard as dick.
Sure.
One of the because it's boss fights, which is kind of interesting. In one of the boss fights, it took me 232 deaths to beat.
Holy shit.
And when I got to the final boss, I was like, I'm not doing that again. So I banged my head against that wall for probably 15 minutes. I'm like, fuck it. And I turned down the difficulty. While this game is very hard, it's also incredibly accessible because you can change the speed of the saws move. You can change how fast your player moves. You can change the game speed. You can change how long you stay in a room to clear it, right? You can fuck
Sure.
with these sliders on such a granular level that I've almost never seen before.
Sure.
So it's really inviting. And so I think for the uniqueness of its concept, the brevity of its runtime, it's worth playing. But when I finished it, I was like, yeah, I understand Disc Room. I'm done with
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
But again, a very, very unique concept. Devolver continues to be very good at curating just the right games.
Mhm.
So it's on Game Pass. I think you would enjoy it quite a bit.
Sure.
It's worth a try.
Yeah. No, and I like the idea of being able to beat it by not bashing my head against it. I think
Yeah.
maybe I skip some of that frustration and decrease the runtime
Yeah.
by changing the sliders a little bit. But yeah, I'll give it a try. I always like experimenting with what Devolver puts out. I actually have played, I guess I would say surprisingly few of their games. I've probably played like 10 of them.
Yeah.
But they really have been prolific in the last few years. And
Sweetly.
I believe, unless I'm fucking losing my marbles, the next game that I want to talk about is a Devolver game. Am I fucking stupid? Nope, I'm not stupid. Okay, the next game that I want to talk about is another Devolver Digital game that came out 2 days ago. And this is a mobile game. This is a game that you play through the Netflix app on your phone, tangentially. And it's a game called POINPY. Yeah. POINPY is down well but up well. Yes. I believe that's how you
pitched developer.
It when you suggested that I play it. Same developer, which is why the comparison is salient. And it is a vertical platformer where you are running away from a big fucking beast that's chasing you, and you have to collect these fruits in specific combinations in order to satiate the beast below you, so you've got more time to do the next combo.
Very relatable.
I know. Doing it all the time. It's my fucking Tuesday morning. And I gave POINPY a try, and I was like, I like this aesthetic. I think the colors are kind of fun, and it's a cute little dinosaur fucking guy with a cannon. Who the fuck knows what he's supposed to be? Doesn't matter. And I gave it a try, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty fun. But it was when I really learned the combo mechanic that I feel like I unlocked the true potential of this game. And learning to, like Downwell, chain things together, not touch the floor, be able to build up these combos that allow you to just get a ton of points. And it's high score based. I love this game. I think it's genuinely phenomenal. I played it for almost 5 hours the first day I played it. I have since checked in, probably played an hour or so each day since then. And I think it proves to me that even though I have not been playing mobile games almost at all since I was in early high school, maybe late middle school at the latest.
Yeah.
That mobile is an incredibly unique and important game market. This idea I really don't think would work almost at all on other systems. You would have to find some different way to turn the touch controls into stick controls and either turn your Switch sideways or just have the screen only take up the middle part if you're playing on Xbox or PlayStation. But it's so compact and tactile and quick and addictive that I think it's perfect for mobile. And it's probably it's up there at least for my favorite mobile games I've ever played. Sure. I really think this is fantastic.
Yeah, I wish I was playing this on any other platform. And that's where I come down on it. Because I think this game's great. But ultimately, it's like the input is like pull back. It's basically it's like Angry Birds, but you hold your phone this way, right? Mm-hmm. You just do that with an analog stick. And ultimately, it's like, a lot of the screen would be cut off. But it's the same with Ikaruga. It's the same with Downwell. You can play that way. You can flip into Tate mode. There's all kinds of ways to get around it.
Yeah.
I just like, to me, it's not the way I want to play. I don't want to fucking navigate through my Netflix app to get a download, to then launch it separately, to tie to my subscription. It just, to play on my phone, I don't know. That turns me off of the game, but nothing about the actual game does. Because I agree with you. I think the game's quite remarkable. Mm-hmm. It's very clever. I love its aesthetic. It's simple, but it's cute, and it works. It is. When you begin to play, and you've played a lot more than me, but you can very clearly see that this is coming from the Downwell. This is coming from the Downwell legacy, if you will, the legacy of one game, right? But as you're saying, learning how to chain land on the pots to conserve your jumps so you can hit more fruit, and then you fucking land on the guy, and then you slam down into the ground, right? It's a fun little loop. And then as you get the seeds to start pulling what are ostensibly the sort of power-ups you would get between clearing levels of Downwell, it all feeds into itself so well. And I'm just fascinated by the idea of the vertical platform, right? Because it's such a unique concept, and it's so cool that the developer said, what if we did a vertical platform, we go down? But now what if we did a vertical platform, we go up?
Yeah.
And the way that he applies, actually, I don't know who the developer is. So I'll just go with the they, because I'd love to learn more about them. But seeing how they apply the same combo ideas, the same very fundamental gameplay mechanics, that to me seems so contingent on moving downwards to a game about moving upwards, is quite compelling. Because I think what's cool about this game is it isn't always about moving upwards. Sometimes it's about falling back down.
Yeah.
And that's cool. So I think there's a lot going on here, and I want to keep playing it. Sort of game that I feel comfortable hopping into for 15, 20 minutes here or there on my phone. But I would just rather play it somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I think that's... I was about to say I think that's fair, but I don't necessarily particularly think that's true, because everything you're talking about in terms of the steps is a 30-second thing. and it is a one-time thing, and otherwise it just plays like any other mobile game on your phone, as
Yeah.
long as you have a Netflix subscription. That's the one caveat. But also, you're never going to let your Netflix subscriptions expire. You share it with people. Your fucking family pays for it. It's never going to go away. So it
Yeah.
for what it is, if you have a Netflix subscription, it's just a mobile game that you have to navigate through in order to download it. But after that, literally no different. And I think that maybe for me, the reason why I would struggle to get as into it on another platformer,
Yeah.
and I think its accessibility in your pocket is
Sure.
important to. Okay, I'll take this out, screw around for a few minutes, I'll put it away. And of course, that could work on Switch, and it could work in longer sessions or screwing around on the other platformers, platforms. But I think that it was designed with mobile in mind, and I think
Yeah.
I personally can feel that. I really respect that, of committing to mobile as a platform and designing it around that, and holding it in my hand and feeling there's really great haptic in this game. So when you're bouncing off something or collecting a fruit, a little bit of a buzz, very, very fantastic. And the gameplay loop, I think, is only increased as you understand it better, because
Sure.
I have gotten to the point where I can get, so there's like, you have a gourmet level, which is how much combo you've gotten in order to get to the next section of the world. But it's just like, it has these different aesthetic, different couple gameplay mechanics, different enemies. But I've gotten to the point where I can start a round and I can get 10 gourmet level, which used to feel fucking impossible to me, in the first combo. Like, I can just go bloop, fill it all up. And also, the upgrades that you're talking about, the power ups, I think lend this game a lot of flexibility in terms of this is my gameplay style. If I unlock this and I combine it with this, and I can I really like bouncing off the guys. I really like bouncing off the walls in order to collect fruit. You can choose different ways, and the mechanics I think are so solid that I was like, man, I really wish that there was another way to play this, and not in terms of platform, but in terms of function. And there is a hidden puzzle mode in this game. You flip yourself off the beast to the left, and you've got your little slot machine. Yeah. You flip yourself off to the right, there's a couch. The fuck is that couch? Go up the roof above that couch. Boing, 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 boing. You find a little thing. Boom. Or I guess there's not a couch. You find the couch up at the top of this room. It falls down. There's like 60 puzzle levels that you can play, and they give you a ton of seeds, and they're all really creative. And it just shows that there's a lot of care. And this isn't just the high score based platformer. If you do a little bit of digging, I like that it's hidden. I think that's very fun. You can find a full puzzle game to play, and I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I think the game's great. I just don't think I'm sure there was a lot of money changing hands between Devolver and between Netflix.
Yeah.
But I think it was Chris Schilling saying on Twitter, and I think it's a great point. There's one review for this game. Nobody fucking has any clue what POINPY is.
Yes.
And it's because it's on here.
No, that's absolutely true. And I think it's also because it's a Netflix game, which no one has ever talked about before. Apparently there are games you can download through their app, but I've never done that before. I'm interested that this is a new thing, and small developers can make quality games and get money from Netflix and stuff. But that is absolutely what's holding this game back from guys. I don't think it's mobile, because mobile games are huge. Mobile games can do very well. They can break into the mainstream. Games like Florence, or I honestly haven't played that many mobile games, but I would bet that this game comes to other platforms eventually, but it might not be for like 2 years or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, it's a wonderful game. It's just I don't play games here.
Yeah.
And it takes a game like Pokemon Go to really convince me that this is the platform to play a game on, you know?
Sure.
The strength of POINPY pulls me away and makes me say, oh, I got to play a game on here, so I will. If this is how I got to play POINPY, this is how I'm going to play POINPY. But it's not how I want to play POINPY. And I want people to know about the game.
Yeah.
So I wish it was on Switch.
Yeah.
Or wherever. But last game I have to talk about, Tucker.
Okay, the last one of the day.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. As of the time of recording, my review has been up for about an hour and 45 minutes. Early copy of the game from Dotemu. This game's fucking awesome. It is, Tucker, it is, as you know, it is rare for me to be excited for a game for a long time, have it release, and totally satisfy me.
Yeah.
That happens very rarely. That's been happening a little bit more frequently sometimes. Kirby Forgotten Land, Metroid Dread, Halo Infinite, right? A couple examples. Lego Star Wars wasn't one of those examples, right? So Turtles Revenge, Shredder's Revenge, I was so fucking pumped for.
Yeah.
But then I just had in the back of my head, like, maybe it's just not going to be what I want it to be. But it is.
Sure.
This game is so excellent, so confident. It is just a celebration of TMNT and a really fucking good beat 'em up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just nails that hook, line, and sinker, right? The animation is amazing. I think there's few games that animate this well, that convey the personality of the turtles to this extent, while also building environments that just feel like cells of the cartoon. They don't necessarily feel like pixelized renditions of them, right? Because it's so detailed, so meticulously assembled. And it just feels fucking great to play. It's accessible. The move list is pretty vast, but the inputs are very simple.
Sure.
And it's really great to pick up, and it's really great to pick up if you're not familiar with the genre, if you're new to it like I am, right? And at the same time, while it is about that fucking arcade experience, fucking hardcore combos, conserve the lives, everything, you can play the story mode and you can scale your difficulty and you can do side objectives. You can find replayability through facets that aren't score chasing. And I think that's a compelling way to get a lot out of a little. The game's like 2 hours long, a little bit more than that. And so while I think that's probably a little bit too long for me personally to want to do a run after run after run, it's the right length for me to want to hop in and out of its 16 stages individually with the different characters, leveling them up so they get new power-ups as you fight, new moves in their arsenal, and completing these little side challenges, and they keep playing the levels in different ways. So I think that the game is remarkable in its ability to have a target and fucking nail it bullseye.
Yeah.
If Shredder's Revenge is precisely what it sells itself to be, and it is absolutely perfect in its execution of it. I think there's a couple problems here and there. I think that a couple of late game enemies are spongy or annoying. I think that the final boss is kind of lame.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But we're talking about like annoyances here.
Sure.
The game is just really great. We need more games like this that are just simple, that execute on this vision, that modernize it where need be, but just leave it to be this fucking cool throwback experience. So Temu is just on the goddamn ball. Streets of Rage 4, Shredder's Revenge, crazy. Do X-Men next.
It's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. I think that their commitment to this genre is incredibly impressive. The beat 'em up genre, I don't think has ever died, but it certainly fell out of favor for like 15 years.
It definitely, it was great.
And I think that with re-releases of almost all the classic beat 'em up games, including the Turtles games coming up in a collection, the Cowabunga collection, and with the prominence of Streets of Rage 4 and now this game being shown off at directs and presentations, and this game having fucking shown up fucking everywhere in its mother, I like that we have a new genre back in prominence, and it's very exciting. I'm interested to give it a try. I liked Streets of Rage 4 a lot when I played it. I liked Streets of Rage 1 when we played that last summer. I watched like I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle phase for like 2 weeks in early high school. And I wanted to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. I'm like, this is my new bit. And it was 2 weeks, and then I promptly forgot literally fucking everything about it. I could not tell you the turtles' names based on their color of their bandanas or their fucking weapons. Like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for me, exists in this either of a lot of, like... Was this a Nickelodeon cartoon? Where was it fucking on?
Originally, I don't know. Nowadays, it is Nick.
Okay, sure, yeah. But Nickelodeon is something I have no connection to. I guess, of course I knew it was a Nickelodeon game. They're in the fucking All-Star Brawl. A lot of those franchises I have no personal connection to because it isn't what I grew up with. And so the aesthetic of the Turtles, the, grimy, oozy sewers and shit like that, that doesn't appeal to me on base level. But I do think this game is undeniably very quality from what I've seen of it. And I'll be interested to see if a game like this can hook me into the aesthetic and world of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in a way that I haven't before. And I'm certainly going to give it a try. I don't know if beat 'em up gameplay hooks me enough to want to play a second time with a different character or go for the side challenges or go for upgrading the characters, but it's not impossible. So I'll report back next week when we either talk about it on BLB, well, next week, we'll see if we have it again next week, or if we do a separate review for this, which I think is certainly possible.
Yeah, I mean, Abby wants to play tomorrow. I think you should join in. It's on Game Pass. Give it a fucking download. We'll run through it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Abram, that brings us to the end. Though we have a couple, I think, straggling BLB submissions from Andrew because he.
Oh God.
Is that true?
I don't know. This episode's going on so fucking long.
All right, well, let's just end it. Sorry, Andrew. Sorry, Andrew.
Andrew, we made this video for you. This is you get it all. You probably beat some anime fucking strategy game. I don't want to hear about it. That's the bottom line, Andrew.
Well, we'll see you guys in the future. I feel today, Baldy.
I feel
like I should make fun of your shaven head a little more than because I frankly, it's been over a year and or almost a year, and I barely have. All things considered.
Because I think the thing about it, here's the thing about my hair, right?
What hair?
First of all, I think it's become normalized because there's a period of time where my hair was just doing whatever the fuck I felt when I woke up in the morning, over to the side, fucking slicked back in a man bun, in the front of I was doing awful things with my hair, right? That's just acknowledged. I look back at pictures of myself from like 18 months ago, and like it's egregious that people let me do that.
Sure.
So here's the thing about it. Sure, my head mostly bald, yes. But is it a fucking night and day? Is it a night and day difference over what it was before? I think so, and I think that is why it doesn't get made fun of, because this is a standard haircut, or a standard. you know what I'm saying?
A consistent
haircut.
Yeah.
And there's other people that do this. There's other people that did what I. Yeah, there's other people that did what I used to do.
Cancer patients.